Okay, so what you're going to be doing in today's lesson is looking at the Brighton Pavilion and doing some drawings from it. What we're doing is we're going to be working in continuous line and we're going to be using a fine line pen. And a fine line pen is one of these ones with this kind of gluey kind of pen, whatever, casing on it. So we're going to get ourselves a pen with a nice nib on it. Don't use one that's been squashed up. You want it to be quite a nice sharp point. Now, continuous line drawing we use to try and get you to loosen up. So it's usually one of the first ones that we do. So what we want to do is, we've got this drawing, this image of the pavilion. It's extremely detailed and we don't want to get bogged down with any of that at the moment. What we want to do is just loosen up and start to get this feel for recording. So we don't want to draw the whole thing. We're just going to look at a small section. Now, whenever I draw the pavilions, I always draw these dome tops first because I just quite like the shape of them. So that's what I'm going to start with. Now, with continuous line, your pen doesn't leave the piece of paper. And what we're doing at the moment is we're looking at what we can see. And we're just finding ways to represent those shapes using these nice, quite loose and fluid lines. Now, because it's continuous line, your pen can't leave the page, so you're going to end up doing a lot of backwards and forwards. And what you want to be aware of as you're doing this drawing is that you're looking a lot at the image in front of you and not too much at your piece of paper. And just finding ways to start to record some of the shapes that you're seeing in the image that you're drawing from. So you can see how I'm starting to put in some of these circular windows. Okay, so that's my first one. It's a very quick process. We're not expecting it to be completely accurate. And if I'm looking at this drawing, I can see lots and lots of things that aren't right. But that's the nature of the technique. And we just want you at this stage just to be loosening up and getting used to it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to now expand this. And we're going to take this across a single or a double page, depending on how small or how large you work. Now, I've gone quite big, so I'm going to take mine across a double. And what we're doing is we're generating patterns. So as well as loosening up, we're also going to see how drawing in this way, we can combine those drawings together and we can start to lay them over one another, and we can use what we call multi-directional, using the book in a multi-directional way. So we're turning it around and the images are facing lots of different ways. And when we've finished, you'll see that you've generated this kind of pattern. So I've just turned my book 90 degrees and I'm going to look again. I'm going to work from this same image, but I'm going to choose a slightly different area to focus on. So now I'm going to look at one of these pillars and then I'm just going to go again. Okay, so now I've put my second pillar in, and again I'm quite happy with that. You will notice here I started to add in some shading, and inside here where I can see these darker areas inside this pillar. I could have extended that by putting some of this shadow in down the side here, just by layering over my lines. But I'm quite happy with that, and that works really well for me. So I'm going to turn my book again. So now I'm working upside down, and then I'm going to think about putting something into this section here. Now, I quite like these very detailed archways. So I think what I might do now is have a look at exploring some of those. So I might bring these pillars back in and then see if I can get some of this nice detailing. Okay, so I've tried exploring that as well, and again I'm quite happy with what I've managed to do there. And now I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to work through this, and I'm going to look at the spaces that I have on my book and add little bits of detail in at various different places. Some are going to be big, some are going to be smaller, and I'm going to think about my composition and then just gradually work through until my page is full. Okay, so at this point I think I'm quite happy with my page. I think if I could probably do a few more smaller bits in some of these areas, and obviously if there's time in the lesson then you'll have an opportunity to do that. But I'm conscious that if I work over these areas anymore, I'm going to start to lose that definition, and I'm going to stop being able to see that these are actually drawings based on the pavilion.